Hi folks, this is Jason. Hope everybody's okay today. I'm on holiday and just doing some relaxing stuff really. So hope everybody's okay and love to everybody out there. So we're looking at the historical reliability of the Gospels, and we're going to look at contradictions in the Gospels and how to deal with them, or any so-called historical mistakes. I've done on my channel today. If you go to the Jason Burns channel, I'm working through a book called The Cambridge Companion to Jesus, and in one of the videos there I go into Quirinius census, so that's with here. But we look at Mark chapter 5 verse 1 to 13. They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of Gerasenes, and the herd, numbered about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and were drowned in the sea. The issue here is when it says the other side of the sea, it's located quite significantly away south of the Sea of Galilee. It would have taken 37 miles before these animals would have gone into the sea. So the question is, has Mark got the historical information wrong? We read in Matthew 28, and when he came to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes. Matthew seems to place the event in Gadara, as Mark puts it in Gerasa. Gadara is about 7 miles from the Sea of Galilee. I'm just going to quote McGrew here because it's quite in depth. He says, there are several significant variants in the Greek text of Mark chapter 5 verse 1 and the parallel text of Matthew 8:28 and Luke 8:26-27. In Mark and Luke, the best attested reading is Gerasenes, an attempt to represent the adjective corresponding to the place name. The Aramaic version of the place name would be written without vowels. Gerasa equals GRS or KRS. As we look at the map, the identification of the region of the Gerasenes in Mark with Gerasa, modern-day Jerash, is doubtful. A plausible identification is with Kerasa, modern Kursi, in either case from the route KRS on the eastern shore, where a steep hill runs down almost directly into the water. So what about Gadarenes? It seems probable of Matthew's Gospel either misspelled the term Gerasenes or mistook it for Gadarenes, much as someone might mistake or mistakenly correct Ostemo for Ostego. The copyists of manuscripts are not immune to making errors or of spelling or to fixing what they are copying if they think it's a spelling mistake. So that's the answer to that. That's in McGrew's notes. So then, if we look at Mark chapter 7:31, then he, Jesus, returned from the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region of Decapolis. Question, why would you go north to south? if you look at the map, there's a mountain, Mount Meron, which is a quarter of a mile high directly between Tyre and the Sea of Galilee. But there is a pass from Sidon, which goes in the mountain to the Jordan River Valley, where foot travellers where people go and travel to Galilee and find fresh water for the journey. So basically, if you'd look at the map of the area, you'll find that Mark's text is verified. Mark chapter 11 verse 1. Now when they drew near to Jerusalem, to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples. Critics would say anyone approaching Jerusalem from Jericho would come first to Bethany and then Bethphage. Several passages showing that Mark knew little about Palestine. We must assume, Dennis Needham says, that Mark did not know the relative positions of these 2 villages on the Jericho Road. Randall Helm, who wrote the Gospels, 1997. As we look at the verse again, now when they drew near to Jerusalem, to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples. If you notice, the Gospel of Mark states, when they drew near to Jerusalem, they came first to Bethphage, then to Bethany. What he's doing is giving an approximation. McGrew says where it was on the road that Jesus sent his disciples on ahead. Bethphage and Bethany were both on the eastern slopes of the Mount Olives, about half a mile from one another. So basically, you read the context of the text. Objection 10:12, and if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. Skeptics will say this sentence is generally regarded as an addition to Jesus' teaching that was made to address situations relating to Rome legal practice whereby a woman would initiate divorce proceedings. John R. Donahue, Daniel J. Harrington, The Gospel of Mark, Volume 2. This is completely contradicted by Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 18, verse 5 and 4. Says Herodias took it upon herself to confound the laws of our country and divorce her first husband in order to marry Herod Antipas. Checkmate. Basically, when you're looking at the Gospels, check the historical and cultural context. Slaughter of the innocents. In Matthew chapter 2, the infants killed because of Herod. Argument, why is it not mentioned? It couldn't have happened. Basically, these are arguments from silence, and most historians don't use arguments from silence. If they do, they use them in a very qualified sense. Arguments from silence are stock and trade of skeptics. Yet, if you was to use it against them, they soon call you out. Yet they use it all the time. So those are some possible issues concerning historical accuracy with the Gospels that McGrew tackles, and from silence and Herod and killing and the slaughter of the innocents. I mean, if you actually read Josephus and you go and read his life, you'll be amazed what you read. I mean, he killed one of his relatives, had the young lad swim in a lake or a river, and then because the guy was a possible heir to the throne, Herod had him killed by one of his men. Herod knew no bounds. In his last days, he ordered a number of people to be slaughtered before his death, but his commanders didn't obey his command. The guy was a lunatic in the end of his days. He was absolutely ruthless, and the idea that he could not or would not or did not kill these children. To me, the evidence points to him being quite capable of having children killed to save his own neck, and also that was a practice of rulers in the ancient world. If you look at the whole history of Greek, Greek and Egyptian and Babylonian history of kings, many of them had no qualms in having family and opponents killed, and especially children if they were going to be a threat to the throne. So there is historical parallels. There is indirect evidence that Herod would have been and I think that we should give the Gospels the benefit of doubt there. I don't think we have to use point the argument of silence to skeptics on that one. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? I've got one more video now, so I'm going to make the last video, then I'm going to call it a day. So I'm going to go on now to my last video, and I hope that you found this a challenge and a blessing. Before I do, I'm going to recommend you some books that you can read about this topic. So I am just finding some books for you to read on this topic. Okay, the first book to recommend is The Historical Reliability of the Gospels. So this is the historical reliability of the Gospels, and this is Blomberg. So that's so yeah. So sorry. Good. So you have the historical reliability of the Gospels by Craig Blomberg. Then you have the historical reliability of John's Gospel. So these are books that you can get that will be a help to you. Evidence for God, 50 Arguments from the Bible. William Dembski and Mike Licona might be a help to you. Just looking at This would be an interesting book to read. Hank Hanegraaff, Has God Spoken? Proof of the Bible, Divine Inspiration. Jesus and the Eyewitnesses, not specifically on the topic of historical reliability of the Gospels, but still very helpful. So we're just looking at some books. Good commentary on the Gospel of John there by D.A. So just looking at stuff that you can read. Just seeing what I can find. That would be interesting. Craig A. Evans, Life of Jesus Research, Analytic Bibliography, but it's not on the topic in hand, but would be very interesting to read. There's one of my favourite theologians just of the subject, J.C. Berkouwer, Dutch Reform guy. There's a book to read against what we advocate. Robert M. Price, The Incredible Shrinking Son of Man, How Reliable is the information. So that's a scholar against what we believe. So it's always good to read around. Making Sense of the New Testament is a good book you could read by Craig L. Blomberg. So I'm just seeing what it goes here. You got Jesus and the Gospels is another good book by Craig Blomberg. Good resource, Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels. That's for those who are interested in scholarship. Very good dictionary there. Lots of articles on the New Scholarship Today. I wouldn't agree with many of those articles in there. Cambridge Companion to the Gospels. Again, would not agree with a lot of what we're sharing in these talks, but I'm sure it would be very good. I'm reading the Cambridge Companion to Jesus. You'll be able to get this free on PDF. So I'm just looking at what else is there available. Seeing the Historical Jesus of the Gospels, Craig S. Keener. Be very good to read. Quite a deep book. Let's see what. Just trying to find. Good book to read spiritually would be A Harmony of the Gospels by John Calvin. So that would be this one here. Calvin is one of my, if not, Harmony of the Gospels by Oliver E. Daniel. Might be interesting. There's an old classic, Brooke Foss Westcott, Introduction to the Read. Archie France is a good scholar on Matthew. William Barclay's books, he's not an inerrantist, he's a liberal, but they're some of the best commentaries that you can read on the Gospels. Yeah, he's a liberal. Like, doesn't believe in literal miracles, or didn't believe. He's dead now. But William Barclay is a really good writer. I use him a lot in sermon preparation and Bible studies because he's brilliant in Greek, and he's brilliant in producing words. So he's really, really good. So if you want to study the Gospels, have a read of William Barclay. I don't endorse his attack on the Bible as the Word of God, but he's certainly helpful. Richard A. Burridge is a notable scholar. I'm sure this book would be very interesting to read. It's been principally quite influential in the scholarship of the Gospels recently. Again, Craig Blumberg, The Historical Reliability of the Gospels. If anything you read through my recommendations, it would be this book, Historical Reliability of the Gospels. That would be the book to read. So let's just see what else there is. So there we are. So we'll do some more book recommendations. Another date. So there we are. Hope you got that as a blessing. So I hope you were blessed by just thinking about possible issues, whether the Gospels are historically reliable, and give you some books to look at. So so we're just going to think now. I think I'm going to go on to just talk about. We've looked at possible historical data that might not be correct in the Gospels, and we just considered a bit of that. So I've done a series or some videos on inerrancy and the Gospels. So we'll just cover it a little bit now, and I think after this we're going to do going to do a video on Herman Bavinck, the life and theology of Herman Bavinck. I think that's what we're going to do after this. So there we are. So we're looking at, are there contradictions in the Gospels? I've done work on this myself. 2 Peter chapter 3:16, there are some things in them that are hard to understand, which the ignorant and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do to other scriptures. And we're just going to look at Bart Ehrman. Says the source regarding Jesus' resurrection are hopelessly contradictory, as we can see by doing a detailed comparison of the accounts of the Gospels. Bart Ehrman, The Historical Jesus, 2000, page 90. And there are many objections that can be made. And we'll just look at one. Was Jairus' daughter already dead? Matthew 9, or just dying? Mark 5. Okay, so we'll just look at one because it's going to get complicated. Frame's website. You'll be able to find Poythress' book on inerrancy of the Gospels, and he goes into detail about inerrancy of the Gospels and sorts out the contradictions. Also, if you go on to the website Christian Think Tank, he has an excellent article on contradictions in the Gospels and resurrection accounts, and he does a brilliant article showing you how these issues can be resolved. So that's Christian Think Tank. Look at contradictions in the resurrection accounts. That will be a brilliant article to read. Okay. But in Matthew chapter 9 verse 18 it says, a ruler came in and knelt before him, saying, my daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her and she will live. In Mark chapter 5, 22-23 it says, then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and implored him earnestly, saying, my little daughter is at the point of death, come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live. Just a point here that if you go to John Frame's website, type in John Frame, Christian philosopher, and you'll find his website. And he shares the website with Poythress. And if you go onto the free book section, you'll find Inerrancy in the Gospels. And you'll find Poythress give a brilliant expose of these two passages, just an aside. So we see that Matthew says that the daughter is right there and then died. And in Mark, it's Jairus says that his daughter is at the point of death. What we see is Matthew, in his account, the Mark, it's a compressed piece of information. If we look at Stein, Blomberg, and Witherton, in the standard of contemporary writing of events, compression was often used as a way of writing and would not be seen as a contradiction. Quote, this is McGrew. According to Chadwick, Matthew's expression, has died even now, is so close in meaning to Mark's at the point of death that a person full of anxiety might say she is dead by now, and mean what we would express by saying she is at the point of death. When he left his house to seek out Jesus, quotes, that she was in the process of dying. In his appeal to Jesus, he may well have used words that expressed his fear that the worst had already come to pass. I would add that I think there is some truth to the way writers use compression in the time in the 1st century. I think that is accurate and important. But I would also say that Matthew and Mark have two different ways of looking at the situation, two different what can I say, two different agendas in their writing. Matthew is more looking at it from a Jewish perspective, Mark from a Gentile perspective. That's why the Matthew account is more simple, because he's not homing in on the Gentile significance, whereas Mark, being Gentile, looking to Gentiles, is expanding it more. So that's why you see the differences. That's why you see the nuanced differences. Just a little pointer that Poythress brings out in his book. So, so there are a couple of reasons around the so-called contradiction that you can give there. Here, Greek grammar, literary context, etc. Okay. Now, we could go into others, it'd be too detailed. If you go to Alleged Contradictions of the Gospels by Dr. Timothy McGrew, go and listen to his lecture. He'll of contradictions that people bring up that he answers in a very detailed way. So I'm going to finish now, and going to go and I'm going to do a little video, on one of my theological heroes, Herman Bavinck, and then I'm going to finish. Okay, so I'll be back in a few minutes if you want to come and listen to my reflections on Herman Bavinck.